Hi, hello, how are you? Good morning from New York City. It's gotten a little less hot here. It's a little bit nicer today. I can't manage the humidity. I'm really not good in it. Anyway, enough about weather. Okay, with this video, I will be embarking on a bigger project that I've been wanting to do for a while. My sweet, lovely nephew is getting married the end of September, so I'm gonna make a dress to wear to the wedding. And I want it to be cool and stylish and feel good in it kind of dress. So the plan is, I found a pattern after a lot of looking, which I think appears deceptively simple, but also elegant, hopefully. And it is lined, so I think it's gonna have a really nice finish and look really good. I'll show you the fabric. I got this months and months ago at Mood Fabrics in New York City. I was there shopping for fabric for a blazer, and I saw this and I tried to ignore it. I walked away. I said, this isn't right. It's not what I'm looking for. It's silk. It's got these flowers. I must be crazy. I kept looking and I could not stop thinking about this. So I went back and I bought it. Then I embarked on the blazer project. I started in muslin with a pattern that I found, and I just got utterly overwhelmed and stuck. My neighbor is a wonderful seamstress. I took it over to her to see if she could help me. The pattern had been translated from another language and it just wasn't making sense. So I let that go for now. If anyone knows of a good sort of boxy blazer pattern that's single button lined, please let me know. I've really been looking and I haven't found anything. My name is Linda, and I'm an actor and writer living in New York City and a lover of fashion and beautiful clothes, and I am in the process of building my own wardrobe so that when I open my closet, I really want to put everything on that's in there. And I'm being mindful about the fabrics I choose and how much I sew. I'm not trying to just make everything, but really make things blend and come together in a way that's practical and useful. So yeah, that's my overall goal. I'm sure you have heard of the 3-word method for figuring out your own style. If you haven't, I'll put the link below to Alison Bornstein's video explaining it. But my 3 words are casual, dramatic, and sexy/powerful. That might sound like a contradiction. Sometimes they do contradict each other, but mixed together, they can really kind of work. So I feel like this dress does actually fulfill my 3 words. Casual in terms of the straightforward, simple design. Dramatic, well, here you go. Need I say more? And sexy/powerful in the fit. I want to make it I don't want to make it tight, but I want to make it skim along my body and really be flattering. So that's the plan. All right, I am going to start by cutting out the pattern, cutting out muslin, and begin there. I will take you along for every step, and hopefully at the end of this, it'll work out and I'll have a great dress to wear to the wedding. Okay, thanks for watching. Okay, I have all the pattern pieces and the lining pieces cut out, and I am now pinning them to the muslin, and then I'll cut these out and I will start sewing. And I'm watching a period drama. I know I'm a bit of a cliche. I'm watching a period drama on PBS, one of my favorite things. Okay. Okay, so yesterday I was sewing the side seams on the muslin and the back stitch stopped working. It's just something let go. You can feel, I can feel when I push it down. Here, let me try. It's just not connected to anything. So my darling husband here, who's quite good at fixing things, took it apart to see if he could get in there and see what was going on, but it's too complicated for us, for him. Hi. Okay, I took a shower and had something to eat, and I've had tons of coffee, so I'm ready to try to tackle this. I got this out. This is an old baby lock machine. My mom actually bought this for me. She's also the person who taught me how to sew when I was a kid. I've written about that quite a bit. I'll put links to a couple essays that I've written. But I've always had problems with the tension on this machine. So we bought the Brother machine on the floor over there for my daughter at least 10 years ago. And she used it, but she then lost interest and she moved out, and I asked her if I could keep it and use it. So that's the one I've been using. So let me thread this and see if it'll just sew so I could at least complete the muslin. And yes, I am having deep, real fantasies right now about buying a new machine. Yes. But we'll hold off on that. We'll get the other one fixed. We'll see if this will work. One step at a time, right? Okay. Okay, so here's the muslin. I tried it on, and I always have to add length between the point of my bust and my shoulders, and I wasn't sure whether to add it across the chest. That seemed weird, so I added it in the shoulders. So maybe, as you can see, whoops, I put an inch of fabric on the front and the back, and then did a 3/8 inch seam. So the bust is falling in the right place. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to hold the phone. The bust is falling in the right place at the moment, and the hips are good. The waist is too baggy, so I need to take in these princess seams and also the darts in the back. The other issue is it feels a little too plain or businessy for what I'm going for. Even with my fabric, I'm not totally feeling it. So what I'm thinking right now, what I'm going to try to do to this piece is cut a deep V, make the shoulder straps more narrow, and cut a deep V so it feels a little more fun and like a party. So I'll be back. Let me pull in the seams, try that, and then it means I have to do a totally new piece of facing for the top and figure that out. But okay, I'm liking this a lot more. It's feeling more fun. I took this in a 1/2 inch. These princess seams, I have to streamline the angle so it's neater. I took the back darts in a 1/2 inch, created the deep V's. You can see I had to take the basting out of the shoulders in order to cut it, but I still need the additional fabric there. So yeah, I think I'm gonna move ahead with creating the facing for this bodice and finishing that, and then sort of making my decision if I'm gonna go with this pattern or not. Hey there, life lesson. I just drove my sewing machine into Manhattan, had Mike here leave work and meet me because there's nowhere to park in Midtown. So he could stay with the car and I could take the sewing machine into the shop recommended by my dear friend Sock. And I take it in there, and there's simply a I don't know what the word is, a piece of the machinery that you have to pull down when you're doing buttonholing that was pulled down, and then you just put it back up. So he put it back up. So there was nothing wrong with the machine. So yeah, it happens, right, Mike?
And the big tragedy is she was hoping she would get a new sewing machine.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Now my machine's fine. And I had a nice little drive and listened to a podcast in the city. Okay. So there's actually been a couple weeks since my last piece of filming on this. I wasn't feeling well, and then my husband and my kids and I went on our end of August vacation. So now I'm back working on the dress, and I got to get it done. I'm leaving in 3 weeks for the wedding. So before I left, I was working on this facing, and I was just having so much trouble figuring it out. Based on the instructions, I'll put an image of the instructions on the screen. They just didn't make sense. I did what it said, and I couldn't figure out how to get it right side out. I'll go into more detail when I'm sewing the dress, but the difficulty came with closing up the shoulder seams and the openings and then turning it right side out. I'm not gonna, I thought about filming all that and sharing it all with you guys, but it was just so frustrating. I wrote to Style Arc and asked questions. I didn't get a response. They have tutorials, so I looked at those, which were helpful if I hadn't sewn the side seams yet. I could get the facing. It's the armhole and neck facing together in one piece that is the issue. And if you don't have the side seams done, that's possible. And I looked back at the instructions for this dress, and it does have me sew the side seams before I did the facing. So anyway, I just went to YouTube and I found a way to finish the facing, and I'll show you when I do the actual dress. But I think I've solved it. It was a saga. But in conclusion, I'm happy with the fit. It's gaping a little here, and I think that's this fabric, and it wasn't stay stitched. So the silk I'm using doesn't have any kind of movement like that, but I'll still stay stitch the neckline so I don't get this gape. I am ready to lay down the fabric and cut. A little nervous, but I think it's gonna be a fun, cool dress. So onward. Okay. This is the dress front. This is the V-neck, seam allowance. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. And then I've marked to add the 1/2 inch for the length in the shoulder. I created a completely new front facing piece. The fold down here. Oh, I just saw that I added an inch, so I'm going to cut that in half since I only need a 1/2 inch. I marked the back. I made sure that the front width and the back width are the same. Got a 1/2 inch to add there, and here's the seam allowance. So I'm going to cut this one. I am using the back dress piece to trace the new neckline onto the back facing piece, and then cutting that out. Good morning, it's a new day. I'm going to try to crank through as much of the dress today as I can. I have cut out the facing. I decided to use lining fabric rather than, it calls for me to use the dress fabric for the facing, but since this fabric is so dense, I decided lining would be better. So I've cut out the facing. I've cut out the inner facing to support the facing, and I'm going to iron that on right now. Okay, I've got the front 3 panels together. I was thinking about the seams and how to finish them in the most clean way possible, but because of the weight and texture of this fabric, I decided French seams would just be too much. A bias tape seam, all of it would be too heavy. So I've just used an overlock stitch on my machine and done a regular seam. I did not cut those princess seams smaller as I had to take them in on the muslin, because I just want to make sure, because this is thicker and heavier fabric, when I put it on, that I still need to take them in the same amount. I'm sure I'll need to take them in, but I'm going to wait until I get the whole thing together, and then I will reduce those seams. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be pretty nice. All right, I need to sew the back on and the zipper forward. I am sewing the back darts, and I brought them in an additional 1/2 inch as I did on the muslin. When I finished these, I cut off some of the excess fabric and did an overlock stitch to finish off the raw edges. I used the overlock stitch on my machine to finish the raw edges on all of the pieces. It's really frays a lot. This fabric frays quite a bit. The next step is to sew the side seams. I'm ironing all the seams flat. Next step is to put in the zipper. In order to get around the issue of sewing around the pull, I start below the pull, sew the entire zipper, then do what I'm doing here, pull it down and go back and sew the top part so that I don't have that bulky area around the pull. I used to try to sew around it, and it of course never works. Okay, I'm getting there. I put it on after I got the zipper in, and I've made a bunch of tiny adjustments by hand. I brought these in as I did in the muslin. These needed to come in once and then a little bit more again. I actually brought the side seams in like 1/4 inch. The back dart I did bring in 1/2 inch when I sewed it, so that's working. So the fit is good. I'm pretty excited. I just love the fabric. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and sew the darts where I basted them and the side seams, and then start on the facing. I am pinning the facing to the dress, right sides together, and then we'll sew the neckline and the armholes. As indicated in the instructions, you only sew up to the seam allowance on the shoulder seams, not actually closing in the shoulder seams with your stitching. So here I have the facing finished on the inside. I decided not to line the inside of the dress because of the weight of the fabric. I just didn't feel that it needed it, and it might make it more bulky. And as you can see, here are the instructions that you sew the lining along these areas, leaving the shoulder seams open here and here, which is what I did. And then in these instructions, you turn it wrong side out, close up both the lining seam and the fabric seam, and then close up the opening that you've left up here. And I did that on the muslin, and there was absolutely no way to turn it right side out. And I kept looking at it and I kept looking at it. And if you see something I don't, please tell me, but I got really frustrated. I found another tutorial on YouTube. I'll show you the steps. I have sewn the right sides of the fabric together on the shoulder seam. And then what I'm going to do, I've clipped the corners, is tuck the seam allowance in here, tuck this seam allowance in here, tuck the facing seam allowance in this side, roll this over, and do a slip stitch to close up the shoulder. And I will have a nice clean shoulder on both sides. And the final step is to sew the hem. I can't believe I'm here. This has really been a process. I folded it over twice, pressed it, and then I'm sewing it on the right side so I can control the flowers and make sure they don't get folded over as I go. And it fits so well. I'm so proud of this. I love the way it looks. It just feels right. It feels like me. It will be so fun to have my own garment that I've made to wear to the wedding. Of course, I have cocktail dresses I've purchased in the past and they would be fine, but this feels really special and I'm just so pleased with it. The necklace I'm wearing was a gift from my husband many, many years ago, and the colors are just perfect with it. So I think it'll be my choice on the day of. And I have this wrap and this vintage clutch, which I will use also, as it could be cool later this month. All right, well, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again with another sew along. See you soon. Bye.